So in this segment, we're going to be talking about a slap in the face. Tory seats gain more from £4 billion levelling up fund analysis find. So Tory seats have been awarded significantly more money per person from the government's £4 billion levelling up fund than areas with similar levels of deprivation, a Guardian analysis has confirmed. So how this money is allocated then, because it can't be some glorious formula based on need, closer to the EU's formula. Why would the Tory party funnel more money to Tory safe seats, but more importantly to Tory swing seats? The disclosure is bound to provoke further fury from some regional leaders who on Thursday accused Rishi Sunak of offering pre-election bribes. Councils discovered that wealthy areas, including the Prime Minister's Richmond constituency, will benefit from the new £2.1 billion pot of funding, while many deprived areas will miss out. And imagine if you live in one of these deprived areas, especially if you voted for Brexit, how you'd feel that Richmond is getting money, but your area might not be. There will be a lot of first-time Tory voters who will ask themselves what benefit has voting Tory actually done for them, given especially with the recent tax increases. Now showing those green shoots, as Phil would say, this is their desperate attempt to try and show the Tories giving some minor amounts to their constituencies. Now, I was not always the biggest fan of where the EU structural funding always went, but given one of these levelling up projects is going to some sort of eco-tourism site, I'll give the EU a pass because they didn't do such nonsense. The Tories put up huge levelling up art in their announcements, huge signs, but some of these projects are still being partially funded by the EU structural funds, which shows how long ago these projects have been planned for. Yes, these are election bribes, badly done bribes at that. But given some of these people think having more food banks open up in their area is a good thing, well, I don't think I have high hopes for these people. And they won't figure out what this really is about. Research by The Guardian found that money allocated so far will disproportionately benefit people in the Conservative seats. Voters in Tory seats got more than £19 more per head than those in similarly deprived non-Conservative constituencies in the latest round of funding. So you have areas that have equal levels of deprivation or similar levels, but one area gets money because they have a Tory MP and the other does not, so much for being based on need. Andy Street, the Conservative mayor for West Midlands, decried the government's begging bowl culture and said he had pressed ministers for answers on why some of the region's poorest areas had lost out. This is a Tory mayor calling out his own party. Well, we have seen so many Tory MPs begging the Prime Minister in Prime Minister questions for levelling up funds. If you watch me do my kind of reaction to PMQs, you'll see it every week now. This is not the way it should work. We should have strict criteria about the levelling up funds, what they should be used for. Then bids from local councils should be based on that. If it's programs to help people gain work experience, infrastructure projects like buses or train routes, or other things to help an area regenerate, or ways to help make them more productive, or investments maybe in an area's creative industries. These are things that maybe are worth looking at. But the Tories hate the high arts. This money is not going to the right places. This is the key problem. The mayor added, quote, "The centralised system of London civil servants making local decisions is flawed. I cannot understand why the levelling up money was not devolved for local decision makers to decide on what is best for their areas," end quote. And I wonder if it's just down to civil servants. I wouldn't be surprised if it was MPs who set these formulas. I wouldn't just be blaming civil servants here. There should be more power given to local people. Perhaps they should do consultations as to where the money is being spent. We need to watch out for corruption, of course, but at least local people can do a better job of holding their local officials accountable over having to go all the way to London to deal with MPs. A Guardian analysis found that Conservative marginal seats, those with majorities fewer than 8,000, have received 1.5 times the amount of funding per person than other constituencies under the £4 billion budget, £76 per head compared to £53. So basically, seats that could swing. 8,000 votes is a lot of votes, which tells me the Tories are scared. Raab's seat, for example, he went from winning by 23,298 votes to only winning by 2,743. So there will be a lot of Tories that fall into this category. They must be really scared seeing a vote swing of 8,000 mark. The 8,000 mark is huge. They're going to be desperately using this levelling up funding to hold power. So much for helping deprived areas. This is pure electioneering. Constituencies that won under the Conservative landslide in 2019, many of which will be vulnerable at the next election, have been awarded twice as much per person as other seats. It looks like red wall seats have been promised even more money, probably in the hopes that the Tories can hold on to these seats too. Looks like Sunak fears a rebellion from that part of the party, the Northern Research Group, that wing which supported Truss over him at the time. These constituencies will include red wall areas such as Burnley, Workington and Blythe Valley have received £90 per head of the Levelling Up funding compared with an average of £53. So obviously it depends on what these projects are being spent on as well. That could factor into the amounts. But given that Blythe have recently seemed to be losing British vote, they definitely need a bribe up there, considering I imagine people are not happy. Instead of awarding money to areas based on the levels of deprivation, the government says it takes into account other factors, including, get this guys, value for money, deliverability, and whether the project fits with the priorities of the Levelling Up Fund. That choice has major implications for funding allocations, and this is nonsense. Why would these swing seats have more of any of these factors? These are nebulous terms. What is deliverability, for example? Who defines what that is? What are the priorities for the funds beyond Tory electioneering? Council leaders questioned the government's approach after areas like Sefton and Merseyside, which includes some of the most deprived streets in the country, were not deemed to be high need and had bids rejected. Ian Maher, the Labour leader of Sefton Council, describes the process as, quote, yet another slap in the face, end quote, and said the government's formula meant areas like Bootle and Crosby have been assessed as having the same needs as places like the Royal Borough of Tunbridge Wells, Windsor, where the royal family live, Cambridge, and the City of London. And, Sunak admitted to changing Labour Party formulas in order to funnel money to wealthier areas at the cost of these more deprived areas like Tower Hamlets. This is him doing it on a grander scale. Anyone who fell for the Levelling Up stuff was a clown. I'll be honest, is a clown. Oliver Coppard, the Labour mayor of Sheffield region, said he was quite angry and frustrated after its bids of nearly £30 million for transport was rejected. He added, if you look at where the money has gone, it's certainly gone to places like South Yorkshire, which should be the focus. It certainly has not gone to places like South Yorkshire, which should be the focus of the Levelling Up agenda. It feels to me like a pre-election bribe. You can't level up a country by constant, endless competition for small pots of money, end quote. So, councils and areas that were refused bids will of course be annoyed, but given that we know the Tories are using this fund as a way to placate Tory MPs and bribe voters, non-Tory areas, heck, even Tory safety seats, you can imagine, might be annoyed. The Tories are deliberately ignoring deprived areas on purpose. Labour Shadow Communities Minister Alex Norris said the allocation had sent Levelling Up backwards, calling it a, quote, Hunger Games, end quote, approach to regional growth, saying there was, quote, nothing for the cities of Birmingham, Nottingham and Stoke, and nothing for Stonehouse in Plymouth, which is a community in the bottom 0.2% for economic activity, but there is money for the Prime Minister's constituency and money for areas in the top quartile economically, end quote. A good statement. Not a great statement. I would have said Labour would base their formulas on need regardless of how an area's voting history, and we will get the funds to the areas that need them. But given that some of these areas are in the 0.2%, the bottom for economic activity, clearly the Tories did not base any of their funds on need. Let's be honest there. And if you want to argue about deliverability and all that nonsense, just don't bother. Speaking on a visit to Moroccanby, Sunak said the criteria for Levelling Up funding was very transparent and that the north of England had disproportionately benefited. And the north of England is where most of the seats are. Like, Plymouth is in the south of England. This man isn't a clown. He's the entire circus. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.